This recording was made to be listened to slowly, with subtitles on, so you don't just hear the words, you feel them. Let them sink in at your pace. Hello and welcome to our channel. Thank you for joining us for this important conversation about dealing with controlling or narcissistic parents and family members. In many of our previous discussions, people have shared deeply personal stories about how these challenging dynamics affect their day-to-day lives, their self-esteem, and their emotional well-being. It's a topic that can feel overwhelming and sometimes taboo. After all, we often hear phrases like, "but they're your family," or "blood is thicker than water," which can make it even harder to address these issues head-on. Today, we aim to create a safe space for reflection, where we can talk openly and honestly about the emotional toll of having controlling or narcissistic relatives. We'll explore how these behaviors manifest, why they happen, and how to begin healing from the damage they cause. Along the way, we'll share stories from real people who've reached out, strategies for setting boundaries, and an example of someone who reclaimed their sense of self by choosing a healthier path forward. Our mission in this episode is to let you know, if you're dealing with manipulation, guilt-tripping, or constant criticism, you're not alone. Family ties can be complicated, but that doesn't mean you have to tolerate behaviors that harm your mental health. Often, the first step in breaking free from toxic patterns is simply recognizing and naming them. So stay with us as we dive deeper into the complexities of these family relationships. Let's explore the core reasons why some parents or family members try to exert so much control, how it impacts you psychologically, and what you can do to assert your own boundaries without being consumed by guilt. Let's begin by looking at the bigger picture of what happens when a parent or close relative uses controlling tactics or narcissistic behaviors to dominate the household dynamic. From there, we'll move into specific examples, proven strategies, and a success story that demonstrates change is possible, even in the toughest of circumstances. It's often said that every family has its own way of doing things, and that's true, to a point. However, there's a line between general family quirks and patterns of control that become emotionally damaging. When we talk about controlling or narcissistic parents, we're referring to individuals who tend to see their children or relatives as extensions of themselves, rather than as separate human beings with unique needs and rights. This mindset can manifest in many ways, including relentless criticism, micromanaging decisions, invalidating a child's feelings, or making every situation revolve around the parent's wants and expectations. In a household run by a controlling figure, daily life can feel like walking on eggshells. You might catch yourself thinking, "If I say the wrong thing, I'll never hear the end of it," or "I shouldn't have an opinion because it will be shut down." Over time, this kind of tension becomes internalized. Children in these environments learn to second-guess their own judgment and constantly look over their shoulders, anticipating disapproval. The result is a pervasive sense of unease, as though you're being tested on invisible rules that shift at the whim of the controlling parent. One hallmark of narcissistic parenting is the lack of genuine empathy. A narcissistic individual often demands attention, praise, and obedience, but offers little in return when it comes to emotional support. If you're experiencing this, you might notice that conversations inevitably circle back to the parent's achievements, needs, or feelings, regardless of what you're going through. You may attempt to share a personal victory, only to hear a dismissive response like, "That's nothing compared to what I did at your age," or a story that puts the spotlight right back on them. Over time, you begin to feel invisible in your own home. Another powerful aspect of controlling behavior is guilt. Parents or relatives who utilize guilt-tripping frequently remind you of sacrifices they made or difficulties they faced for your sake. You may hear phrases like, "I worked day and night so you could have opportunities. Now you owe me," or "You're being so selfish after everything I've done for you." These words tap into a natural human desire to feel grateful and loyal, twisting that desire into a chain that keeps you tied to their expectations. Emotional manipulation can take countless forms, from silent treatment and passive-aggressive remarks to overt threats and emotional outbursts. In some cases, controlling parents might lash out if they sense they're losing their grip. They might question your loyalty, undermine your achievements, or sabotage your plans by creating crises at pivotal moments in your life. When you're getting ready to apply for a job in another city, they suddenly fall ill and insist they can't manage without you. Or when you talk about moving out, they call you ungrateful. These tactics aren't always calculated in a conscious sense. Sometimes they stem from deep-seated insecurities or fear of abandonment. Regardless, the impact on you is still harmful. Many who've grown up in such environments report feeling intense pressure to perform, to please, or to conform. It's not unusual to hear stories of individuals who excel academically or professionally, driven by a desperate need to earn love and respect from a parent who never seems satisfied. Yet even success doesn't fill the void. You might get straight A's or land a prestigious job, only to hear, well, that's just the minimum. Why aren't you doing even better? This persistent sense of never measuring up can leave deep scars, fostering anxiety and self-doubt that linger into adulthood. There's also a phenomenon where the child or relative internalizes the controlling parent's voice, turning it into a harsh inner critic. When you leave home or gain some independence, you may still carry that critical voice around in your head, telling you you're not good enough or that you're selfish for wanting boundaries. It can be tough to distinguish your own genuine thoughts from those imposed on you by a narcissistic or controlling figure. So why do we feel so conflicted? A big part of it comes from societal and cultural scripts that idealize the family bond. We're taught from a young age to respect our elders, to cherish parents who provide us with food, shelter, and education, and to feel shame or guilt if we question their behavior. As a result, many people suffer in silence, believing they must tolerate neglect or abuse simply because it's family. This silence can perpetuate the toxic cycle, allowing controlling parents to maintain their power unchecked. By recognizing these patterns, constant criticism, guilt-tripping, manipulation, emotional invalidation, we begin to open the door to making healthier choices. The emotions that bubble up, anger, sadness, confusion, are natural responses to an unhealthy dynamic, not signs that you're a bad child or ungrateful. Identifying the problem is the first step in moving from a place of silent resentment to a place of conscious action. In the next segment, we'll explore the psychological underpinnings of these controlling behaviors. Why do some parents become so overbearing? Why does the narcissistic parent focus on self-image at the expense of their child's well-being? Understanding these root causes can help you break free from the blame game and take the steps you need to protect your mental health. Controlling or narcissistic behavior within a family doesn't arise in a vacuum. Often it's the result of unresolved personal traumas, ingrained cultural expectations, or personality disorders that were never acknowledged or treated. Narcissism, for instance, is commonly associated with patterns of self-centered thinking, a desperate need for admiration, and a lack of empathy. These traits can be deeply rooted in childhood experiences. Perhaps the parent was themselves raised by someone who withheld affection unless they met certain standards, or perhaps they were praised only for achievements, never for authentic emotional expression. When people enter adulthood with these unresolved hurts, they might attempt to reclaim control or validation in their relationships with their own children. In a sense, they're repeating a cycle. I was never allowed to fail or be vulnerable, so neither are you. This mindset can manifest in everything from hypercriticism to undermining any attempt at independence. In the case of a genuine narcissistic personality, the individual may truly believe the world revolves around them. They might interpret their child's feelings or accomplishments through the lens of, how does this reflect on me? If the child succeeds, the narcissistic parent can take credit or become jealous. If the child fails, the parent may react with excessive anger or shame, as though the child's missteps tarnish their image. This can lead to an environment where love and acceptance feel conditional, based on whether or not you're boosting the parent's ego. Another dynamic we often see is intergenerational trauma, where one generation's unresolved pain spills over to the next. If a parent has never healed from childhood neglect, abuse, or chronic stress, they may act out those same patterns with their own children. For example, a parent who is constantly belittled might find a twisted sense of power by belittling their child in turn. Alternatively, they could overcompensate by trying to micromanage every detail of the child's life, determined to mold them into an ideal version of success. Societal and cultural factors also play a significant role. In some cultures, strict obedience to elders is not just expected, it's demanded. Children might be taught that disagreeing with parents is a form of grave disrespect. This cultural backdrop can amplify controlling behaviors because the parent feels culturally justified in dictating every aspect of a child's life, from career choices to personal relationships. The child, meanwhile, is conditioned to feel intense guilt for even questioning such authority. Gender roles can intensify these issues. In some families, mothers are expected to be the caretakers who hold everyone to emotional ransom. I sacrificed everything for you, so you owe me your unquestioning loyalty. While fathers may exercise authoritarian control, expecting to be obeyed without challenge, if a child or teen pushes back, it can be seen as a major betrayal of traditional family hierarchies. Financial dependence further complicates the picture. A controlling parent may leverage financial support as a means of exercising power. They might say, "As long as you live under my roof, you do as I say," or "I pay for your education, so you better pick the major I want." This dynamic can leave individuals feeling like they have no choice but to comply, lest they lose basic resources or create explosive conflicts. For a narcissistic parent, the concept of boundaries is often foreign or threatening. Boundaries imply that the child is a separate being with unique thoughts, needs, and autonomy, which contradicts the parent's deep-seated need to remain the central figure at all times. The parent might violate privacy, sabotage relationships with friends or romantic partners, or call incessantly to track the child's whereabouts. Their insecurity about losing control leads them to escalate manipulative tactics, from guilt-laden phone calls to subtle or overt threats. Understanding these root causes is critical because it separates the parent's motivations from your self-worth. It helps you realize that your parent's behavior stems from their own unresolved issues, not from any inherent failing on your part. It can be liberating to see clearly that you are not at fault for their anger, their jealousy, or their inability to empathize. This realization is often the catalyst for seeking help, be it through therapy, support networks, or simply researching coping strategies, because once you understand what's behind the controlling dynamic, you can begin to dismantle it. However, understanding doesn't automatically fix things. People sometimes hope that if they just find the magic words or show enough compassion, they can heal the controlling parent. While empathy can soften interactions, narcissistic and deeply ingrained controlling traits are resistant to change without professional intervention. Sometimes the best you can do is protect your own emotional well-being by creating and maintaining strict boundaries. In the next section, we'll discuss the toll these behaviors take on everyday life, particularly on how you view yourself and interact with others. Recognizing why the parent behaves the way they do is one step, but understanding how this affects your self-esteem and relationships is another crucial piece of the puzzle. Only by fully grappling with these impacts can you decide how to move forward in a healthier, more balanced way. When a parent exerts undue control or demonstrates narcissistic traits, the immediate fallout often centers on the child's sense of identity and value. From a young age, you might learn that love is conditional. Do what pleases the parent, or brace yourself for criticism, anger, or worse, complete emotional withdrawal. This conditional atmosphere can chip away at your self-esteem, making you believe that your worth hinges on external validation rather than your intrinsic qualities. In adolescence, this manifests as either extreme compliance or rebellion. If you comply, you might become the good child, striving to meet every demand in hopes of maintaining a semblance of harmony. You carry that role into adulthood, saying yes to things you hate, avoiding conflict at all costs, and swallowing your own opinions. This can morph into people-pleasing tendencies in other areas of life, like work and friendships, because you've internalized the idea that disagreement or imperfection will lead to rejection. On the flip side, you might rebel. Feeling smothered by constant control, you choose to do the opposite of what your parent wants. Not necessarily because it aligns with your true desires, but simply to carve out a separate identity. While rebellion can be a form of self-assertion, it can also lead to destructive behaviors if it's driven by unprocessed anger. You might make impulsive choices just to spite the controlling parent, inadvertently harming yourself in the process. As you grow older, these early experiences seep into your romantic relationships, friendships, and even professional settings. You may find it difficult to trust others or form genuine bonds, because deep down, a voice whispers, "They'll judge me or abandon me if I don't act perfectly." Or you might overcompensate by taking on the caregiver role, constantly seeking to fix others' problems, reminiscent of how you tried to manage a parent's emotional state in childhood. Low self-esteem is one of the most pervasive outcomes of being raised by a controlling or narcissistic parent. When your feelings are frequently invalidated, you're too sensitive. Stop making a big deal out of nothing. You start to doubt your own perceptions. Over time, you might lose touch with who you are, what you want, or what you actually feel in any given situation. You may develop an internal narrative that says, "I'm overly dramatic" or "I'm incompetent," even if there's little objective evidence to support that belief. Relationships become fraught with anxiety. If you're used to being criticized or belittled, you may anticipate the same treatment from partners and friends, causing you to either shrink yourself or test them to see if they'll reject you. This fear of rejection can manifest as clinginess, seeking constant reassurance that you're loved and accepted, or as emotional distance where you preemptively push people away so they can't hurt you first. It's also common for individuals from these backgrounds to struggle with decision-making. When someone has always dictated your choices, be it your clothes, your hobbies, your major in college, or your career path, you might not trust your own judgment. The internal question, am I actually capable of making the right call, looms large. Even simple decisions can become anxiety-inducing, and you might seek external approval to feel confident in your choices. Another subtle yet damaging impact is what some call the loss of authentic self. You've spent so much time molding yourself to fit the family's expectations that you may not know who you really are. Are your dreams truly your own, or were they planted there by a parent? Do you genuinely enjoy certain hobbies, or did you pick them up because they made your parent happy? This confusion can lead to a quarter-life or midlife crisis as you struggle to reconcile your genuine interests with the persona you've crafted under external pressure. Academically or professionally, you might see both extremes again. Some people become high achievers, spurred on by fear of disappointing a controlling parent. While this can lead to impressive accolades, it often comes with chronic stress, burnout, and a nagging sense that no matter how well you do, it's never enough. Conversely, some people give up trying, feeling they can't possibly meet the standards set for them, leading to underachievement that stems not from lack of ability, but from a belief that success is pointless if it's never recognized or celebrated. The social circle is yet another area impacted. Constant criticism and lack of support from your family can make you hesitant to open up to friends about your problems. You might be ashamed, thinking, why can't I just deal with this on my own? Or you might not want to burden others. Alternatively, you might develop a pattern of venting excessively, always seeking affirmation that you're not the problem. This can strain friendships and lead to self-isolation or codependent dynamics. Ultimately, the greatest tragedy is that controlling or narcissistic parenting disrupts the fundamental sense of safety and belonging that family is supposed to provide. Instead of feeling unconditional love, you feel judgment. Instead of growing in confidence, you spiral into self-doubt. Recognizing these patterns is crucial because it empowers you to break the cycle. You can begin to say, yes, this happened to me, but it doesn't define me. I have a right to exist on my own terms. In the section that follows, we'll share real-life testimonials from individuals who've lived through these exact struggles, highlighting how universal this issue is. Whether you feel isolated or misunderstood, you'll see that others have walked this road and discovered ways to heal. The aim is to inspire solidarity, reminding you that you're not alone and that it's possible to reclaim your self-esteem, your confidence, and your authentic voice. One of the most remarkable aspects of discussing family control and narcissism is the realization that you are far from alone. This issue transcends cultural backgrounds, economic status, and generational divides. In the many messages we've received, common threads emerge: feelings of obligation, suffocating guilt, and the sense that one's life isn't fully one's own. Let's explore a few real stories, shared with permission, that illustrate just how widespread and impactful this problem can be. Story A: The High Achiever Trap. Sarah, a 28-year-old graduate student, wrote to us detailing how she grew up in a household where straight A's were not just expected, they were the bare minimum. Her father, whom she described as unreachable emotionally, would only engage in conversation if it pertained to academic success. Whenever she scored less than perfect, the disappointment was palpable, sometimes expressed through silent treatment, other times through biting remarks about her lack of ambition. Sarah recalled how her father would brag to neighbours and relatives about her achievements, as though they were his own, but would belittle her if she showed any sign of stress or vulnerability. She arrived at graduate school burnt out, struggling with severe imposter syndrome. In therapy, she realised she had been living for her father's approval instead of cultivating her own passions. Her story echoes a pattern many people face: an unrelenting push for perfection that leaves them feeling hollow and uncertain of their true desires. Story B: The Guilt-Twisting Mother. Carlos, age 35, shared how his mother would invoke her sacrifices to maintain control. She often reminded him of the tough life she had before he was born, working multiple jobs, sacrificing personal dreams, implying that any step Carlos took toward independence was a personal affront to her hardships. If Carlos spoke of moving to another city for a better job, she would feign illness or claim she could not survive without him. Whenever he expressed frustration, she would say, "You're so ungrateful after everything I've done." Over time, Carlos internalized the belief that wanting a life of his own made him a terrible son. Even as an adult with a decent salary, he felt paralyzed by guilt, constantly torn between his ambition to explore new horizons and the crushing fear of betraying his mother. Story C. The Invisible Child. Amara, 22, described growing up with a narcissistic parent who constantly sought praise but never acknowledged her achievements. If Amara got an award at school, her parent would turn the conversation to a memory of their own glory days. If she felt sad or anxious, the parent would dismiss her feelings as dramatic. Over time, Amara learned to keep everything inside, believing her experiences were unworthy of attention. By the time she entered college, she found it nearly impossible to open up to friends or share her interests. She felt invisible, convinced that no one truly cared about what she had to say. Only after joining a support group on campus did she realize how widespread this issue was and how badly she craved genuine validation. Story D. The Covert Manipulator. Luke, 40, revealed a subtler form of control. His parent rarely yelled or used overt threats. Instead, they excelled at passive-aggressive remarks. "I guess you're too busy for your old man," or "I shouldn't expect a phone call from someone with a life as important as yours." Luke carried a constant sense of guilt, feeling obligated to prove he was not neglectful or uncaring. The manipulative comments extended to every aspect of his life: his choice of partner, career path, and how he spent his weekends. Whenever Luke tried to assert independence, he was met with sorrowful sighs and emotional distance that made him feel like a bad son. After decades of walking on eggshells, he realized he had no boundaries in place, and that this subtle manipulation was chipping away at his sense of self. Reading these stories can be both comforting and alarming. On one hand, it's reassuring to know you're not alone in experiencing such control. On the other, it's unsettling to see how deeply and systematically families can shape our self-perception. Across these testimonials, several common themes stand out: the weaponization of guilt, emotional invalidation, conditional acceptance, a sense of never being enough. These dynamics do not simply vanish when you leave home or reach adulthood. Many individuals continue to replay these patterns in their personal relationships, seeking partners who replicate the criticism or distance they grew up with, or becoming controlling themselves out of fear that they must dominate before someone dominates them. Yet, the shared experiences also point to a pathway of hope. Each of these individuals found a moment of clarity, whether through therapy, support groups, or self-reflection, where they realized they deserved better. For Sarah, it was confronting her father's total lack of concern for her emotional well-being. For Carlos, it was recognizing that his mother's guilt trips were stifling his career. For Amara, it was joining a college support group and learning her emotions mattered. For Luke, it was connecting with others who also felt smothered by subtle manipulations. These stories serve as reminders that, while the pain is real and the control is pervasive, it is still possible to break free. You can step away from the shadow of a family member's disapproval or manipulations and craft a life that aligns with your own values and needs. It is not easy, and it often requires sustained effort, but it can be done. In the next section, we'll delve into specific strategies for overcoming these patterns. From practical tips on assertive communication to suggestions for seeking help, we'll outline concrete steps that can empower you to reclaim your identity and establish healthier relationships, even if your controlling parent never changes. Remember that every boundary you set is a declaration that your life is your own and that you deserve respect and dignity. Breaking free from the grip of a controlling or narcissistic family dynamic is rarely a quick fix. It involves a series of deliberate actions, mindset shifts, and sometimes professional intervention. Below, we'll outline practical steps you can take to protect your mental health and start reshaping the relationship on your own terms. While your specific situation may vary, these strategies offer a foundation to build upon. Recognize the patterns. Awareness is the first step in any process of change. Look back at the stories we have discussed, or reflect on your own experiences. Identify recurring tactics like guilt tripping, constant criticism, or emotional blackmail. Make a list of phrases or behaviors that trigger negative emotional responses so you can clearly see how often they occur. Recognizing the pattern helps you realize that these actions are part of a cycle, not random one-off incidents. Reframe self-blame. Many people raised in controlling environments learn to blame themselves for the parent's anger or disapproval. Challenge this belief by reminding yourself, their behavior is a reflection of their own issues, not of my worth. This mental shift might feel unnatural at first, especially if you have been conditioned to accept their criticisms as truth. But it is essential to separate your identity from their negative projections. Practice assertive communication. Assertiveness is different from aggressiveness. Rather than yelling or accusing, it involves calmly stating your boundaries and needs. For instance, if a parent criticizes your every choice, you might say, "I value your opinion, but I would appreciate it if you could respect my decision on this matter. I am comfortable with my choice, and I hope you can accept that." Keep your tone and words neutral, yet firm. This approach can be challenging when you are used to either arguing or staying silent, but over time, assertiveness fosters clarity and self-respect. Set clear boundaries. Boundaries can take many forms, deciding how often you speak on the phone, what topics are off limits, or whether you will attend certain family gatherings. If your parent tends to call you multiple times a day to complain or criticize, you might limit phone calls to once a week or establish that you will only answer when you have the emotional bandwidth. Enforcing boundaries requires consistency. If you set a limit but then cave in every time they push back, the cycle of control will continue. Remember, boundaries are not about punishing someone else. They are about safeguarding your mental well-being. Limit your exposure if needed. Not every situation allows for a radical step like moving out or cutting ties, but for some, distance is the healthiest option. If living under the same roof is unbearable, consider seeking alternatives, such as renting a room elsewhere or moving in with a supportive friend or relative. Reducing physical or digital contact can give you the space to recalibrate your sense of self. This decision can come with guilt or social pressures, especially in cultures that emphasize close-knit families, but your psychological safety is a priority. Seek professional help. Therapy is invaluable if you are grappling with deep-seated guilt, anxiety, or trauma from a controlling family dynamic. A trained counselor can help you process your experiences, develop coping strategies, and practice healthy communication skills. Family therapy might also be an option if the controlling parent is willing to participate, though individuals with narcissistic traits may resist or attempt to dominate the therapeutic space. Even if family therapy is not possible, individual counseling can make a profound difference in your healing journey. Build a support network. Look for allies outside your immediate family, friends, community groups, online forums, or religious communities that offer mutual support. Having people who listen, validate your feelings, and remind you that you are not alone can counteract the negative narratives you have been subjected to at home. Support groups for children of narcissistic parents or survivors of emotional abuse can be particularly helpful, as everyone there understands the unique challenges you face. Practice self-care and self-discovery. Engaging in hobbies, exercise, or creative pursuits can serve as a reminder that you have interests, talents, and desires beyond your family's expectations. Try journaling to explore your thoughts. Writing down your feelings can bring clarity and reveal patterns you might miss otherwise. Ask yourself questions like, what do I genuinely enjoy? Or, what would I do if I felt completely free? If you find it hard to answer, that is okay. Rediscovering your authentic self after years of control takes time. Develop an internal locus of control. Controlling parents often instill a sense that you are powerless or that your destiny hinges on pleasing them. By working on an internal locus of control, you reclaim the belief that you have agency in your own life. Whenever you make a decision, big or small, acknowledge that you chose it because it aligns with your values, not because it was forced upon you. Over time, this mindset shift helps you take ownership of your life trajectory. Accept what you cannot change. Unfortunately, not every controlling parent will change, even if you confront them with facts or heartfelt pleas. Some people are too entrenched in their behaviors or personal traumas to recognize the harm they cause. Learning to let go of the need for their approval or transformation is a key step in your own healing. This does not mean you give up hope entirely, but it does mean you protect yourself by adjusting expectations. Implementing these strategies is not always straightforward. You might face backlash from family members who are used to having their way. They may escalate manipulations or gaslight you by claiming you are overreacting. Remember that every step you take toward autonomy and self-care is an investment in your future well-being. Even small changes, like calmly asserting yourself in one conversation, can mark the beginning of a healthier dynamic. In the following section, we will highlight an inspirational example of someone who put these strategies into practice. Their journey demonstrates that, while challenging, setting boundaries and choosing a different path can lead to personal empowerment and emotional healing. Regardless of your background, you can take steps to break the cycle of control and create a life guided by your own values and aspirations. To illustrate that real change is possible, let us look at the journey of Camille, a name we will use to protect her privacy. Camille grew up in a household dominated by her mother's iron will. From a young age, she felt she had to earn affection through achievements, good grades, spotless chores, polite behavior in front of guests. Her mother rarely offered praise for her efforts, preferring to harp on minor flaws or missed details. Birthdays and holidays were overshadowed by her mother's complaints, turning what should have been celebrations into tense affairs. As Camille entered her teen years, the controlling dynamic grew more intense. Her mother insisted on choosing her clothes, deciding how she styled her hair, and even vetting her friends. If Camille disagreed, her mother would play the victim, saying, "I am just trying to protect you. One day you will thank me." At school, Camille excelled academically, but avoided extracurricular activities, fearing the backlash if her mother disapproved of the club or the time it took away from chores. By her final year of high school, she felt suffocated. Eager for independence, Camille enrolled in a university located several hours from home. Her mother viewed this as a betrayal, claiming Camille was abandoning the family. During her freshman year, daily phone calls from her mother left Camille racked with guilt. If she did not answer, she would receive dozens of texts accusing her of being selfish and uncaring. When Camille did pick up, the calls lasted for hours, with her mother criticizing everything from her course schedule to her new friends. Eventually, Camille realized that her mental health was deteriorating. She felt anxious each time her phone rang and was terrified her mother might demand she return home. Seeking help, Camille visited the campus counseling center, where a therapist helped her identify the cycle of guilt and control. With guidance, she started taking small steps towards setting boundaries. For instance, she decided to limit calls to twice a week, scheduling them when she felt emotionally prepared. Each time her mother lashed out, Camille practiced assertive communication. "I understand you are worried, but these are my decisions. I am safe, and I am taking care of myself." Her mother's initial reaction was explosive, accusations of ungratefulness and dramatic threats like, "If you do not answer, do not bother coming home for the holidays." But Camille stood firm. She confided in a few close friends about her home situation, finding solace in their support. Over time, as her mother realized Camille was no longer responding to manipulation, the phone calls became less frantic. They were still tense, but Camille noticed she felt more in control of the conversation. Academically, she thrived once the external pressure subsided. She joined a student organization focused on mental health advocacy, channeling her own experiences into supporting others. In therapy, she explored the layers of self-doubt and guilt that had built up over the years. She learned to differentiate between genuine love for her family and the dysfunctional obligation to appease her mother's every whim. When the holiday season approached, Camille decided she would visit home but set clear terms in advance. If any conversation escalated into verbal abuse or guilt-tripping, she would leave and stay at a nearby friend's place. True to her word, she walked out when her mother began criticizing her body and life choices, ignoring Camille's repeated requests to change the subject. The departure caused an uproar, with relatives calling to say she was overreacting. Still, Camille felt an unfamiliar sense of relief and empowerment. In the months that followed, Camille's mother sent mixed messages, sometimes apologetic, sometimes accusatory. Camille continued to hold her boundaries, explaining she was willing to talk only if her mother respected her autonomy and avoided personal attacks. While their relationship remained complex, Camille noticed a shift in her own emotional landscape. She no longer dreaded phone calls or felt obligated to justify every decision. Instead, she developed a growing confidence in her ability to determine what was best for her life. By her junior year of college, Camille was making career plans without seeking her mother's input. Though she still loved her mother, she recognized that love did not require submission to manipulation. In therapy, she processed the lingering guilt and learned to extend compassion to herself. She also found that by stabilizing her own emotional health, she was better equipped to navigate family events without constant conflict. Camille's story shows that change does not happen overnight, nor does it necessarily convert a controlling parent into a supportive one. What changes first, and most importantly, is you. By learning about narcissistic or controlling patterns, practicing boundary setting, and seeking professional help, you can break the cycle of guilt and fear. Camille's journey underscores the reality that you may face strong pushback from other family members who might be invested in maintaining the status quo. But as you become more grounded in your sense of self, those attempts to pull you back into the toxic dynamic lose their power. In the final segment, we will bring together the main points from this episode, emphasizing that no matter how entrenched the controlling behavior may be, you do have options to protect your well-being and shape your own future. Remember, you cannot change someone else's behavior, but you can absolutely change your response to it and reclaim your personal freedom in the process. As we near the end of this episode, let us revisit the central ideas we have explored. Growing up with a controlling or narcissistic parent can leave deep emotional scars, affecting your self-esteem, your relationships, and even your sense of identity. You might feel trapped by guilt or manipulated by constant criticism, wondering if you have the right to set boundaries. We have discussed how recognizing the root causes of a parent's controlling behavior can offer clarity. Often they act out of their own unresolved trauma or personality issues, not because of any inherent failure on your part. This does not excuse harmful actions, but it does highlight that their judgment of you is far from objective. We also emphasize the power of boundaries, those crucial lines that protect your emotional well-being. Whether it involves limiting phone calls, moving out, or seeking therapy, each step you take to assert your autonomy is a declaration of self-worth. You are allowed to prioritize your mental health and future, no matter how strongly your family might oppose it. Professional support can be a lifeline, especially if you are grappling with anxiety, depression, or deep-seated trauma. Friends, mentors, or community groups can also help you feel less isolated. Throughout this conversation, we hope we have shown that while the road to healing may be challenging, it is navigable. Real people like Camille have taken those steps toward freedom and found a more grounded sense of self. Remember, you cannot force a controlling parent to change, and you are not responsible for their emotional state. What you can do is nurture your own growth and well-being. Over time, you may notice you feel less fear and more confidence, and that the grip your family once held over you begins to loosen. Thank you for being part of this discussion. We encourage you to keep questioning harmful dynamics, keep seeking the support you deserve, and keep believing that a healthier, happier life is possible. Right after this, we will offer a brief call to action to guide you toward helpful resources and further steps if you found this conversation meaningful. If this topic resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Right after this, we invite you to watch the video on the end screen. It might help you delve deeper into these issues or discover additional resources for support. Thank you for joining us in this important conversation, and remember, you deserve respect, empathy, and the freedom to live on your own terms.